Vishwarupa Darshana, this sight of this cosmic form that is there. And you can see how rare it is, because even with modern technology today, where we can see deep, deep into the cosmos, and we can see at very minor levels exactly what's happening in subatomic levels. Come up to the front. Come, take it. Otherwise I'll have to shout at the back. So a lot of imagery is presented for us to understand what such a vision could be like, since we have no direct experience of it, even with the most sophisticated scientific instrumentation that we have. But a certain amount of poetry has to go into this. It's a little dry if you say, you see, the moon, the sparkling parts of the moon are made from glass. This is true, of course. You know, when meteorites hit the moon and it gives a splash, it's only silica, and that is why we find sparkling areas in the moon. So when we see what is the sun, and then you can see a study of it up close, somehow it takes all the magic away from it. When we were small, we didn't see it like this. And so to insert some element of poetry there and bring back some feeling about it is necessary, not just to understand the metaphor of what we don't understand, but also to bring about an understanding of its beauty, its inherent beauty. We often lose its beauty by clinical analysis and strip away some of the things that the ancient people themselves saw. So we begin then with Ishvara's cosmic form that goes something like that. Don't forget, Sanjaya is relating this story to Dhritarashtra. It says, Samjaya uvacha evam uktva tato rajan mahayogeshwaro ahari darshayam asa partaya paramam rupam aishwaram. Thus, evam uttva, having spoken, O king, great lord of yoga, because it is only through the yogic power that all this is able to be manifested. So Yogeshwara, the lord of yoga, and also the lord of Maya, because although we are seeing this within our eyes, we have to bear something in mind that will come to us later, that it is all what we call Maya, an inscrutable thing that looks as if something is, but in fact is something different. But when we see the totality of the vision, it is with his inward eyes where we see the forms. And he's addressed as, you see, Hari, the one that we are attracted to, the one that is like molten gold, something that is yellow like gold, something precious, and something that we are attracted to. And we see this attraction that is going on here. See how every word is carefully selected. So Sanjaya said, having thus spoken, a king, the great lord of yoga, Hari, the one we are attracted to, showed to Partha his supreme Ishvara form. Now, it was interesting because not so long ago, a few days back, we had the Gospel of Ramakrishna, and we saw how Sri Ramakrishna relates this in yogic language, and how the coiled up within us unfolds, increasing our vision progressively to higher and deeper areas. And there we see, for example, the Ajna Chakra that is positioned physically, or symbolically anyway, in the center of the eyebrows. And how this awakens for us this Ishvara, whose sound symbol is Om. And it is there that we're able to see all the countless forms. The understanding is that this entity has many forms, infinite numbers of forms, and is also simultaneously formless. So this is the great paradox. And this is the vision that is being seen. And so, Aneka Vaktra Nayanam, Anekat Putta Darshanam, Aneka Divya Paranam, Divyane Kodyata Yudam, with many, many mouths and eyes, with many marvelous sights, with many divine ornaments, with many uplifted divine weapons. And here I draw your attention to the Christmas tree. You can see how many ornaments there are on the Christmas tree. Now we're free. It doesn't take great imagination to see that when we look into the night sky, particularly the technology we have, but it's still on a clear night, we'll see sparkling things there. And the creative imagination will not see them just as, or dismissively, as astronomical bodies in the sky. We might say these are pearls of necklace pearls around the divine neck, or these are sparkling gems or jewels in the cosmic form. Because the great difference, you see, between a dualistic, strictly dualistic approach that says that there's a creator with the creation separate, is that the separateness of the creation denies, in a sense, the beauty of this totality, this cosmic person, this cosmic Purusha, which is one thing. The cosmos is not separate from the creator. The creation is not something separate. It is one and the same. And this is where we see the peculiarity of Vedanta philosophy, that we understand there's only one law really operating, and that is the law of duplication, that whatever happens on the tiniest microcosmic levels continues to happen at every level, including the macrocosmic level. So just as there is a human body with human tissue and so on and so forth, and just as there are eyes on the outside and ears on the skin, everything happens on the skin, by the way, on the surface. Even in the small cell of an organism, we've now discovered that the real intelligence, the real perceiving apparatus is in the membrane of the skin, of the cell, not in its nucleus, as was previously thought. The nucleus is just a manufacturing sector. But the real life impulse, the action and reaction area, the area of receiving information and working it through the cell in such a way that we can manipulate the behavior of the cell, is entirely on the outside, on the skin. So it is, the eyes on the outside, the ears on the outside. Can you imagine now a vast multi-headed body, a vast array of eyes and ears, mouths consuming? You know, the modern parlance has picked this up. We talk about black holes in the center of galaxies swallowing things up voraciously. Destructively, it is mentioned. We see anything within its vicinity gets immediately swallowed by its intense gravity. We see this drama happening before us. And how many eyes are there and how many mouths are there? We have a much better inclination when we look out at this cosmos. But still, we can't see in all directions at all times. We can't see the northern sky and the southern sky simultaneously. We have to rely on various maps, also apps of course, to find out this geography of all these areas. And then we can only see it one section at a time. This is our dimensional deficiency. But here, this eye has opened up and we see now everything happening simultaneously. Marvelous sights, sights that make the mouth drop open. And with many, as I say, divine ornaments, with many uplifted divine weapons, because this Ishvara is omnipotent as well as omnipresent. So the entire universe, we have to understand, is his manifest body. His mouths and eyes are therefore countless. And many a divine happening is beyond the scope of the human knowledge. That much we know. Even ordinary happenings are like that. And such happenings have to be admired as marvelous to look at. Even the most hardened atheist, looking at the natural wonders, says, I get some kind of spiritual internal shift, some kind of internal upsurge, some kind of breathlessness in admiring this beauty and this marvelously engineered universe, which follows specific mathematical laws and equations. But they won't go as far as to say that oh, it's more than randomness. They just leave it maybe as a mystery, in which case there's an agnosticism about it. Excuse me. Or they'll find some kind of random explanation which is not mathematically satisfactory. And we leave that aside. The beauty emanates from Ishvara, and no matter how hard-hearted you are, you'll catch it. Why would we catch it? Because we have an aesthetic essence within us. We have Ananda within us, a sense of beauty within us, because it is beauty itself that sits within us. The attractive and lovely forms, all over nature, adorned with magnificent decorations, appear as if decked with divine ornaments. The divine designs and happenings, these are inevitable. There's a divine will that's driving it, all in the interests of balance and harmony. Nothing can resist God's plans and executions. This we accept. The uplifted divine weapons reveal Him also as the Almighty. Thank you. Divya Mayambara Dharam Divya Gandhana Kada Nuleparam Sarvascharyamam Devam Anantam Vishwa Domukham. Wearing heavenly garlands and raiments, it's as if all of this is strung in this way. Again, when we see beautiful infrared photographs of various phenomena within the cosmos, of great strings of plasma and gas and so on, surely our aesthetic instinct will say, are these not, knowing this is all only one entity, are these not like garlands around the divine neck? And thinking in this way, will we not elevate and purify the mind? So spirituality does require this creative aspect. It requires image making. It requires us to take this artistic sense. All of these great spiritual souls, if we want to call it like that, have this great artistic gift. Let's take, for example, Sri Ramakrishna. How much of an artist he was, fashioning from clay models of various deities, singing, dancing, absorbed in music and drama as well. He was able to make fun by copying, if you like, imitating many characters around him. He had that astute sense of observation and keen turn of mind that would be creative in any situation, taking ordinary themes and stories and teaching in a simple way that everybody can understand. Whether you belong to the rural India or even urban India or not, we can still catch universally these various examples. And so heavenly garments and raiments, it's as if that the whole cosmic Lord of the universe is clothed and arrayed in these things and looking in all directions, like the sun looks in all directions, anointed with celestial perfumes. Even the sense of smell can catch it. All wonderful, resplendent, boundless, with faces on all sides. We can only catch a glimpse by these descriptions. So panorama corresponding to this definition is available even to the physical eye. So what to speak then of the spectacle cognized with this divine eye? Godly features alone are in evidence everywhere and at all levels. Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhaved Yugapad Uttita Yadi Baha Sadrashi Shah Shad Vasyastasya Mahatmanaha. Divi, in the sky, not necessarily the physical sky, but all this is in symbolic language. And this statement is supposed to have been attributed to an exclamation that Oppenheimer made when he first saw this great test explosion of the nuclear bomb in the desert. So some people contest that it was actually so, but it's a well known that he would have said when he saw the exploded atom bomb, if the splendor of 1,000 suns were to blaze forth all at once in the sky, that would be like the splendor of that Mahatman, that great self or soul. We can't even imagine this. The nearest we have is unfortunately this explosion of the nucleus. What an impressive thing it would have been. We have films of it, of course, but they're all in black and white. Nothing is in color. We have no idea of this impression of this 1,000 suns that was made on the explosion of one small atom. Don't forget the power, the potency, the potential energy in one small gram of anything is capable of destroying a whole city. I know, we buy grams of everything and don't know it. So the unknown has to be inferred, citing the known as the pattern. But even then the inference can only be vague, if not erroneous. The realized souls only can have a correct view of him. So men with godly qualities alone can cognize God in his true import. We were studying earlier a little bit about the Prashna Upanishad, where 6 questions are asked. And when I start off, do you have any questions? Nobody really seems to raise any of these questions. And these questions are divided into 2 sections. The one section goes deeper into things, and the other leads on. This is the style of the Upanishads, to lead you from a basic position, more familiar position, and lead you progressively deeper and deeper and deeper until you get the ultimate conclusion. And so, the same thing, leading people in this simple way to the glory of what is there, using these small examples. But anyway, so this questions are being asked in the Prashna Upanishad. And there we find that everything is resolved back to what science now discovers and knows, and that is energy, essentially. Prana and Rai, food or matter. This was the first question that was asked. Where does all this come from? Where does it originate from? Do we have any kind of clue? Can we go deeper? And so by using these various examples, something simple as food, because we don't know what is energy except the thing that mobilizes something else. Tatraikastam jagat krishnam pravibhaktam anekatha apasyad deva devasya sharire pandavastatha. Tatra, there, ekastam, resting in one jagat universe. There in the body of the God of gods. Beautiful language. What do we mean by gods? This is a very unfortunate English translation and has created much confusion. Revealing factor, illumining factor. These lights are, in a sense, illuminating factors. And in the human body we have illuminating factors too. Eyes, ears, these give us all information. And we mentioned the skin of a cell, or the membrane of a cell, is its version of eyes, where it assesses the environment and then duly responds. So can we imagine now this most luminous of all luminous things, it's shining, all things shine. And we can see from there, like a body, in this very body, like the human body. Human body we find in various layers, not just the totality. If you want to study the body and study its anatomy and physiology, we have to take it section by section. Any student of anatomy will know that we have to take the dermatological section, and then we take the circulatory section, and then we take the muscular section and the skeletal section. And like that, we're peeling off layers and layers and layers of what you commonly call your own body. In fact, what you commonly call yourself, erroneously. And so, in the same way, imagine this cosmic body of the God of gods, with all these different layers and levels, and within that, the shining Purusha, the shining self. So there in the body of the God of gods, Pandava then saw, inside in the very superstructure, saw the whole universe with its many divisions drawn together unto one. And you know what? We've just done a guided meditation. We could easily do a wonderful guided meditation on this. See, unity in variety is the plan of nature. Cosmic life is manifesting itself in so many different ways as shining entities, governing bodies, celestials, human beings, animals, birds, vegetable kingdom and other species. And this is just a description close to home in our locality. But these are all expressions of the same one consciousness. And why is it that we find everything arranged nicely, everything working in rhythm, everything working in such a way that it seems to be designed? This is the language, of course, that is now being used. That the evolution of species and the species themselves, they look designed. That when you go to irreducible complexity, let's say to the single-cell bacteria with a flagella that's like a motor, great argument, because those people keen on design will say, see, it's just like a motor, it's like a machine. It has gears, it has everything that a machine has and operates in this way. And those reductionist materials will say, no, that must have developed in an evolutionary way, just by accident, just by trial and error. Don't fool yourself that there's any design. And so in their books it says, seems to be designed. Well, if it seems to be designed, maybe it is. So all of these things so beautifully put together, all with the idea of perpetuating what we call dharma, things that work and operate in harmony. So the celestial world, the terrestrial world, the nether world, all these worlds, all these are all various regions intended for enjoyments of various kinds. And theology says that there are 7 of this. So 7 heavens, if you like, and 7 that are going the other way. And the number 7, as we know, is very significant in the mathematics of the world. 3, 7, 9, these are mathematically wonderful numbers and infer to us a kind of rhythm. 7 notes are there, regardless of the Indian system, Oriental system, or the Occidental system. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa. 7 notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and so on. 7 notes, 7 days of the week. So this rhythm of 7 comes up continuously. But anyway, so these are all regions intended for enjoyments of various kinds. Your last moment of passing away, when the light starts to depart, when prana starts to be withdrawn, in the language of the yogis, uddhana starts leaving. It directs you in any way that your last thought left you with. But they are holiday camps. That's the point. The Upanishads are keen to say, please enjoy your ritual. Please go about it. Please do it with absolute, as much accuracy as you can, bearing in mind there are auspicious times to do it, and times which are not so auspicious for you to do it. But bear in mind, all you're doing is saving up for a holiday camp, a vacation, and sooner or later all that will be spent and you have to come back. And they're encouraging you rather to purchase a one-way ticket, not a return ticket. So all these are contained, all these worlds are contained within Ishvara, who is the life of lives. This is how the unity and variety is made possible. I hope you can catch the vision of it, away from those other theologies that says that God is in his extra-cosmic realm, and we are something remote and separate. Not part of that entity, but somehow an estranged creation. And in some theologies where that Lord of the universe, that Prajapati, that Lord of all creatures, does not even intervene or interfere, a kind of deism. Tataha sa vishmaya ya vishto hristaroma dhananjaya pranamya shirasa devam kritanjalir abhasata. Then Dhananjaya, struck with amazement, mesmerized, you can imagine, his hair standing on end. We find this kind of effect in all the mystics, where this mystic experience occurs. We find the hair standing on end. And we find the breath suspended, a kind of internal rapture, an engagement in this mystic divine. Bending down his head to the Lord in adoration, that would be the immediate instinct. Wonder, adoration and thankfulness arise even in our most mundane observations, where we catch a glimpse of this divine. We get the same feeling. An internal rapture occurs, and there we also find this hair standing on end and the breath temporarily suspended. Never mind about pranayama with kumbhaka, retention of breath. It happens by itself when this feeling comes in. So he spoke. How? With joined palms, of course, in a sense of adoration and humility. See, when a yogi is blessed with the vision of God, its exuberance reveals itself through the spiritual charge it induces in his body and mind. And being struck with blissful amazement, says this commentary, is the effect it brings on his mind. The hair standing on end, the head bowing down in reverence, the palms joining in spontaneous adoration are the marks of ecstasy visible on his body. We have to induce it by first joining the palms. We do it in reverse order. We join the palms and then find some excuse for adoration. But here it happens spontaneously. And out of the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks then, he starts saying. And so the following section, which is now 15 to 31, is to do with the cosmic vision and how it's put in great detail and defined. And it's a sample really of the rapturous utterance he gives. So he begins, Arjuna Uvacha, and of course the meter changes. Whenever some feeling, emotional, important thing comes in, we find the significance is portrayed through change in meter. Pashyami devamsta tava deva dehe sarvams tata bhuta vishesha samghan brahmanam esham kamala shanastam rishimscha sarvan uragamscha divyan. Pashyami, I see. He's relating what he's seeing. I see all the gods, that is all these shining entities, all these celestials, all these illuminating factors that by themselves we are privileged to behold. I see all these, O Lord, in your body and hosts of all grades of beings. Brahma, we use the expression from Brahma to a clump of grass, denoting all the things which are existent. I see Brahma the Lord. Does this mean that there's a separate God? No. It means the first creative impulse of Ishvara is this Brahma, inferring the thing that from there expands itself. So Brahma is there, the Lord, and it's portrayed in mythology as seated on a lotus. Actually, in Vaishnavism, it is a lotus that stems from the navel of the all-pervading one, Vishnu, sitting there in potentiality. And there this grows out and unfolds, and there we find this Brahma. Now, where does this mythology come from? It doesn't come from storytelling. It comes from internal insight, mystic insight, which then comes out as story. And the story is there to explain the internal mystic vision. And that is why when we study Shastra, we do it in the reverse way. We listen to it, we hear it, and then we reflect on it, and then we meditate on it. And it's the meditation that brings these inner meanings out and comes out as commentaries and expansions and explanations. If you don't have that process, you'll be arguing forever on the words and syntax contained in Scripture. And unfortunately, if Scripture is all you're relying on, then we'll have all this back and forth. We'll have this cavilling that our initial peace prayer discourages. We will not argue over how many angels are located on the head of a pin. This was a great argument, you see, in Thomas Aquinas' day. So we won't argue about all of those kinds of things, about what is the geography of heaven and this and that and the other. No. So all these beautiful images is a circular process. It comes from the depth, the insight of meditation, and then gets presented to us so that we can use that and go inward again for us. So Brahma, the Lord, seated on the lotus with beautiful image, and then all the rishis, all the great seers who have this great insight, and celestial serpents, nagas, those representing a certain fluidity, all of this is present there. And Brahma has 4 faces mythologically because it symbolizes that he is all-seeing in every direction, and the 4 quarters are there, north, south, east, west, and so on. 4, the number 4 denotes some stability, some mundane aspect to matter. So he's therefore revered, because he's the creator of all beings, he's revered as Isha, the Lord. And he is seated on the lotus, lotus representing a kind of purity of detachment. You see, a lotus flower doesn't get wet in the water. It floats above, it remains above. And the water, of course, representing our mundane existence that does contain nothing more than vibrations, oscillations, and waves. And he comes out of the navel of Mahavishnu. Beings movable and immovable are all contained in the cosmic form. So rishis like Vashishta and serpents like Vasuki, these are visible therein. And a great deal of symbology is being used here as also. Continuing then, Aneka Bahadhara Vaktra Netram Pashami Tam Sarvato Nantarupam Nanantam Na Madhyam Na Punastavatim Pashami Vishveshvara Vishwarupa. I behold you, infinite in forms on all sides, with countless arms, stomachs, mouths, eyes, neither your end, nor the middle, nor the beginning do I see, O Lord, the universe of universal form. We have no idea about this. We were born in a universe with something like a play, a drama, like let's say a film. And we were never there in the beginning, so we don't know what happened, and we're not going to stay for the end. And what is there is just infinite existence. And if we are pestilent enough, then we will try and find out some clues from those who know. But it's a bit like somebody who's watched the film, and in the middle of the film, you ask, so who's this? What's he doing there? What's that about? Why would that be here? And the person should be quiet. Why don't you see it from the beginning? In other words, why don't you make an inquiry for yourself and get this internal insight for yourself? But we can't see the middle, the end, or anything. We think in terms of this. Here's a beginning, here's an end, here's the middle. Even in life we think like that. Middle age, we have this expression, old age. And 70 or so is middle age, of course. And then we get the old age, and the beginning. And if we have a philosophical bent of mind and see things in a cyclical way, we might inquire, what is the cause of death? Well, the prerequisite is birth. And then what's the cause of birth? The prerequisite is death. And we see this cycle going on eternally. But you see this, we have no idea about this infinity. We have no idea of anything beyond the scope of our linear vision. That's the point. So we're trying to express all these things in a few words, and it becomes very difficult. So it says, see, I behold you, infinite in forms on all sides, with countless arms, stomachs, mouths, and eyes. Every entity that we come across, every organic entity that has a digestive capacity, we should have the insight to say, Lord, this is your stomach. Anything that has eyes, Lord, these are your eyes. Anything that has hands or limbs, Lord, these are your limbs. Anything that has a spine, Lord, these are your structures. Anything that has tissue, Lord, this is all part and parcel of you. This digestive fire is there, keeping people going, keeping things going. Temperature is regulated with different creatures at different levels of temperature. Cold-blooded creatures are there to preserve body heat. Crocodiles, for example, they hardly move and preserve their body heat in this way. And they warm themselves in the sun to raise this body temperature internally. And the human body is more or less the same temperature, whether you're in the equatorial rainforest or whether in the Arctic region. The Lord of the universe maintains this temperature. So just as a small side, naturopathy will say, please don't feed any cold inside. This thing called ice cream, even on a hot day, please don't consume it. Why? Because as a devotee of the Lord, I don't want to give him all the trouble of converting that cold back to body temperature. Since he is Vaishvanara, the internal furnace, why would you do that to the Lord? And then we leave the sugar and all that and all that aside and how that's not good for you. Just the temperature aspect of it. On a hot day, oh, let's have some frozen cold water. No, dousing the internal fire out. So all of these things we can pick up and think of. If we have a keen sense of observation, seeing the Lord present everywhere, that every mouth is His, every eye is His, every digestive system is His, and what a wonderful, marvelous engineering, or piece of engineering this is. Converting foods into a substance that is suitable for energy release, into what we call ATP. See, adenosine triphosphate, and the same diphosphate is there. Every food substance has to be converted into this, which miraculously releases energy. Kiritanam kadina chakrinam cha chajorashim sarato dipti mantam pasyami tam dvaniriksham samantad diptana lakartyutim apramayam. I see you, furthermore, not just to know this, but in a glorious form that meditators see you in, with diadem, club, symbols of your status and discus. A massive radiance blazing everywhere. Hard to look at, all round dazzling like flaming fire and sun and immeasurable. I don't recommend you look directly into the sun. Even when we have these eclipses, we're told, please look at it through some colored glass or some kind of screen. Otherwise you'll damage your eyes. It's too bright to see. Now if that's so with our own sun, and 1,000,000 such suns are there, or the brightness equivalent to that, and then you see this shining Lord of the universe, so brilliant that it's very hard to describe, with radiance blazing, not just locally, but blazing everywhere. It's light radiating everywhere. Vishnu, the all-pervading one, it's light pervading everywhere. Like flaming fire in the sun, immeasurable. We can measure sunlight. We can even measure the distance of the sunlight, the photons, arriving 8 minutes later to your eye. But this is immeasurable. So the color of the sattva guna is also deemed to be white. And the reflection thereof, therefore, of the brilliance of Atman on it is more dazzling than the bright sun. And this is why the Ajna Chakra is portrayed as dazzling white in color, where sattva reigns supreme. Tam aksharam paramam veditvam, tam asya vishvasya param nidanam, Tam avyaya shashvata dharma gupta sanatanas tam purusho matamaya. You are, tam, you are aksharam, the imperishable. In the familiar world to us are things that perish. But this is imperishable. The Supreme Being to be realized. You are the great treasure house of this universe. This universe is only precious because it is the dwelling place, it is the housing, and the Lord, it's the Lord's own body. That's what makes it precious. And we pick this up instinctively in a sense of wonder. You are the imperishable guardian of the eternal dharma. Don't think that this is random. This is all the rhythm produced in the entire universe, what we call the anthropic principle, where every single mathematical equation is very precise, so precise that nothing caves in, nothing wanders off expansively forever. And don't ask me where antimatter is. It's arranged in such a way that the normal antimatter produced in the laboratory does not eliminate this surviving thing called matter. And it's a head-scratching moment for scientists worldwide. You are the ancient Purusha, I deem. This is a term that also you find applied as a definition of Ishvara in yoga philosophy. Not described as a Lord in these terms, but described as the ancient teacher, the ancient one. And so if there is a cosmic person more ancient than that, now science is putting 13.8 billion years on it, but we are saying, no, more ancient than that. It's an eternal universe because it's the body of this Supreme Purusha. And this Supreme Purusha doesn't have a time factor on it. And the universe doesn't have a time factor either within our particular understanding of time at least. So he who realizes this Ishvara becomes worthy of attaining him. The realization of that Supreme Being is therefore the goal of the spiritual practitioner. Not heaven, not any of these other things. The Lord is the treasure house of this universe, even as Agasha is the treasure house of this universe. Even as the Agasha is the treasure house of the moving clouds. When the universe perishes periodically, I will have to explain Agasha shortly, he remains imperishable. This universe will have its demise, will have its breathe in and breath in and breath out, will have its lifespan as Brahma has his lifespan. But this is eons and eons we're talking about. But the one that remains steady is this Purusha. And why we use this term Purusha is because it's a term derived from two roots. One is Puri, meaning a city. So it's an indwelling thing. And the other is Purna, lest you make the mistake that it's captured like a bird in a cage. No, it is all pervading, it is full, it is everywhere found. So it's imperishable. The universe perishes periodically, even though it seems to be imperishable and infinite. It does have its lifespan, but that single one remains. He remains imperishable. In his sublime proximity, the eternal dharma, or the functioning of the universe, takes place regularly. By proximity it's happening, not by any particular act, just the fact of it being there, and the universe then rotates. Arjuna is now convinced of these truths that he knew philosophically, that were explained to him, and now he's understanding it empirically. He goes on like this. Anadi adyantam anantam viryam ananta bahum shashi surya netam pashyami tvam dipta hudasa bhaktram svedat jasa vishwam idam tapadan. I see without beginning, middle or end, infinite in power of infinite arms, the sun and the moon being your eyes, the burning fire, your mouth, heating the whole universe with your radiance. And we have to take this in a very symbolic way because all suns, all moons, all things like that is what is being included. And your eyes, the burning fire, your mouth, heating the whole universe with your radiance. And by now I think you get the idea, and the poetry goes on. So there's no beginning, middle, or end to the one who's beyond time, space, and causation. It's only in that framework that we have these measurements. Ishvara is infinite in power because he creates, sustains, and withdraws the universe. As a mere sport, what other explanation can there be? And God is of infinite arms, and we get some idea when we describe galaxies with spiral arms. As he gets his cosmic scheme worked out, engaging all beings. As what? His instruments, his factors. What are we? Mere instruments. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace, says Francis of Assisi. So it is the brilliance of Atman that shines as the light in the senses. When the eyes shine, understand it is his light that shines through it. When speech occurs, understand it is his energy, his expression that is coming out. These are simply adapters. Philosophy calls them upadis, adapters. Well, restricting things. You say limiting adjuncts is the normal translation. But on the other side of it, expressive adapters. We only understand the light here because the adapter of the light bulb is there, but the electrical current is sitting there behind. It's by the grace of the electrical current, with this adapter, we're able to see each other, for good or ill. So speaking of the sun and moon as the eyes of Ishvara and of the fire as his mouth is poetic, of course. The universe is cognizable because of the radiance of Ishvara. This is the purport. We'll go on a little bit more. Java pridhivyor idam antram hi vyaptam tvayi kina dishascha sarvaha dristha bhutam rupam ugram tavedam lokatrayam prabhyatitam mahatman. The space between heaven and earth and all its quarters are filled by you alone. What is space? See, once people ask me, you know, the modern cosmological models say space is expanding. Into what is expanding? But then you see the Vedanta physics tells us something different. It tells us that actually Akasha, coming back to that, can be translated as unmanifested primordial matter, described in the Prashna Upanishad as Rai, food. So it's something there that is potentially there. Potential energy in an energetic sense is there. But it's also translated as space. Space and matter is the same thing, according to the system. So what does matter expand into? Space. What is space expanding to? Well, space and matter is the same thing. It's expanding into itself. And certainly modern science would go along with this. So this space between heaven and earth and all the quarters are filled with you alone. Having seen this, your marvelous and terrible form, the three worlds are trembling with fear, O Mahatma, because what is a beautiful scenery with radiance and so on and so forth is also awesome to the point of fearfulness, because we're not familiar with these scenes. Anything that we're not used to, the human psyche puts on fear, it fears. And so too with all these other entities and creatures. And what are these three quarters, or these three aspects, or these three, space, heaven, earth? We find it, you see, described in the preliminary to the Gayatri Mantra, Bhu, Bhuva, Swaha. Three worlds are there. This familiar world is, with a wave of the hand we can say, is the observable universe with its limitations. And we can say it's flat, we can say it's finite, but only because we can't see beyond its border. And then we know that there's something beyond it. By inference there must be. Any limitation infers something beyond it. And so this is Swa, something that is beyond. And what's in between? In between is in connecting into space. When you put it in the human context, we can say it's a waking dream and dreamless sleep. We can put it in this way. And everything has this correlation, you see. There's a law. What happens here happens everywhere. What happens at this level happens at every level. This we have to get used to this idea. So Arjuna now realized that the Lord is all-pervading. The Lord is not only all charm and sweetness, He is also fierceness and terror. Of these opposites, the experience of the one or the other comes to the beholder only to reflect his own frame of mind, not the actuality. Arjuna sees this terrible form of the Lord quite in tune with his own disposition, and he who did not want to create a ghastly war scene and wanted to withdraw from it, now realizes that with or without his instrumentality, the Lord has predestined this whole thing. It's all part of his plan. From the Lord's point of view, there's no time. You don't run the movie backward or forward. If you were somebody from Mars and watched a movie, you wouldn't know whether it's running forward or backwards. So he now realizes that with or without his instrumentality, the Lord has assumed the terrific form in order to what? To make things harmonious. That is, to purge the world of all the evils. There's an inherent justice within it that we can more accurately interpret as restoring and maintaining a harmony within the universe, which has no bias one or the other. Destruction, if destruction is part of that, so be it. It's a part of it. We have to acknowledge it. That means we don't require another substation. You see how some theologies require the introduction of an anti-God. How will you explain this world? This world is not all beneficence and kindness. How do you explain all the sorrows and sins and difficulties and the evils in this world? We have to invent an anti-God, since God is only beneficent. So introducing that requires a Satan, originally put in as an adversary, somebody arguing against a position, a legal adversary. And then come now the idea that the world is a balance of good and evil. And since God is only good, how will we justify the other side of it? We have to introduce an anti-Satan. But of course, we all know Satan is just wrong tuning. When we tune in our awareness and our attention to the sublime, to the eternal broadcast, which we know is the Lord of the universe, when that wavers and wanders, what will we get? We won't get the BBC. We'll get howling noises. So, and we finish off with this last one. Amihin tvam surasamga vishanti kejid bitaha pranjalo granati sustitya ukta maharshi siddhasamgaha stuvanti tvam stubihi pushkalabihi. These what? Sura Sangaha, hosts of devas, Vishanti, they enter into you. Some in awe extol you with joint palms. Bands of great rishis and siddhas pronounce, may it be well, and praise you with sublime hymns. What a wonderful poetic vision that the Lord surrounded here by all these great rishis, by all these celestial beings, singing continuous praises. And we find echoes of this in many, many religions. How the cherubims and seraphims sing. See, Christmas time is coming near, and we find these poetic images coming up, that the angels announce the advent of the Christ, and how we find all this sublime hymns of praises going on perpetually with different beings, with different instruments and so on. So when the need for it comes, the Lord destroys not only human beings on a large scale, but also the devas, who are called immortals just by courtesy. It's just that they live for an interminably long time. And as disease cleanses the body of bad matter, the Lord cleanses the world of wickedness by destruction on a colossal scale. Those who vaguely understand this design of the Lord tremblingly submit themselves to the inevitable with folded hands. And as I said when we started at the beginning, as our technology increases, as we're able to see more of this drama played out in the cosmos, we see not only this birth of new galaxies and new stars and stellar regions and new pockets of hydrogen, but also destruction of the old. great black holes swallowing up whole swathes, tons and tons of materials of hydrogen and stars being swallowed up, and galaxies colliding with other galaxies. And one of the great discoveries in this particular century was the verification of gravitational waves by two holes, black holes, colliding with each other. A colossal cosmic event that defies our imagination. So we'll leave it off like that, and we'll continue with this wonderful chapter that many great mystics and saints and seers revere as one of the most significant chapters actually in the Bhagavad Gita, this Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, this yoga of the cosmic, or vision of the cosmic form. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace be unto all.